Hello and welcome. This is your Wish Upon a Star Lunar Horoscope for Sunday, April 4th, 2021. The last quarter moon will be voyaging through the sign of Capricorn the Goat, bringing a sure-footed ability to climb up the social ladder to success. Also, this is going to be mutually successful with spouses and partners. Also, a plentiful measure of fidelity and being able to be more stable. Also seasoned with emotional distance. And we're also going to be adding some poise to this as we have a moon entering into Capricorn. So this kind of poise will be a mask sort of added to the tender feelings. So it's not that the people aren't going to actually have feelings, it's that they're wearing a mask so that their tender feelings are hidden from the world so that they don't feel too vulnerable or too exposed. So don't misinterpret how people behave during this transit. Now, the last quarter moon is a waning half moon, and during this April 2021 cycle, the decreasing half moon occurs while transiting through the 23rd mansion, and that's the 23rd mansion of the moon at 10:02 a.m. in the morning, and that's Universal Time Coordinated, and we're using tropical astrology. Luna's activation of lunar mansion number 23 during a waning half moon at 50% light is potent for performing receptive magic spells and rituals. Now, mansion of the moon number 23 is in effect from the morning of April 4th at 6:31 a.m. until the morning of April 5th at 5:20 a.m. And with the waning half moon occurring in the sign of Capricorn the Goat at 10:02 a.m., lunar mansion number 23 is magically activated at the exact time of the last quarter moon in Capricorn. I'm Pastor Rosemary, the Astrology Angel. I'm a Rosicrucian seer, biblical astrologer, Christian psychic, and Gnostic mystic. And this is a Readings by Rosemary angelic transmission. Now, Luna will be transiting Capricorn from the borders would be 12 degrees, 51 minutes, 22 seconds to Capricorn 25 degrees, 42 minutes, and 51 seconds. This is according to Abraham. Now, the star to wish upon inside the 23rd mansion of the moon is Al-Sad Al-Bula. And that's the name of the mansion. Okay, the name of the mansion is Al-Sad Al-Bula, but the name of the star to wish upon when the moon is in that mansion is named Al-Bali. Okay, and that resides in the left hand of Aquarius, having the good fortune of the swallower, according to Christopher Warnock. Ask the angel of Epsilon Aquarii, who is named Requiel, to restore the injured to wholeness. Also, to remedy sickness and affliction, also to rejoin friends. Now, sorceresses and sorcerers use this mansion to make images that cure ailments, to bring friends together, and to also to cause divorce to married couples, and to give detainees an opportunity to escape confinement. So as you see, these lunar mansions have some things that they bring about, and you can accentuate that by using images thereof. So the things they bring about can be considered good or bad, but actually it all is reliant upon your position in the situation. Because what's bad to one person may be good to another person. Like if you kill a bug, then it's good for you, but it's bad for the bug. It's good for your family, but it's bad for the bug's family. So you see what we're saying. So saying what's good and what's bad is reliant upon your own perceptions and your own convenience. Now, regarding what images that is traditionally used for Lunar Mansion 23, now, as we've said, there's these several other things that you can do during this Lunar Mansion that we've already mentioned that have for varying effects during this moon. And it's in a receptive way. So when you do receptive magic during a receptive moon, you're going to bring the things towards you. And if you do it during a projective moon, conversely, you'll be pushing the things out towards the world or towards others. Okay, so that's of course the difference. Now, there's a traditional image that is used for lunar mansion number 23, and that's the image of a cat having the head of a dog. That's a rendering which many magicians will use to cause cities, villages, and towns to become desolate, ravaged, and forsaken places, kind of like ghost towns, okay? Now, Agrippa reveals that other names for Mansion of the Moon number 23 as Zabadola and Zobrach. Agrippa also reveals that the purpose of the talisman, this talisman that depicts the body of a feline animal and having the head of a canine animal, is to cause destruction and wasting. Now, to add to the magical properties of the rendering, he also discloses that the emblem should be scented with the fur of a dog and made from iron, and that it should be buried in a location where those that have buried it have pretended to harm the surroundings. So if you see that people have harmed something, sometimes it's real, of course, like say there's some kind of a industrial, accident or something. Sometimes those things are on purpose, and sometimes they are accidents. So sometimes nobody meant for it to happen. It just sort of came through nature. And sometimes someone specifically wants something to happen, so they might try to cause something to happen. But in this instance, with this mansion, to cause wasting and atrophy, what they do is, and devastation, they pretend to hurt a place. Or they say, oh, don't go there because there's something wrong with it, when actually there's nothing wrong with it, but they're doing something, they have something in mind that they're using it for this mansion, okay? So that's how these things come about. Now, according to Kabbalistic lore, the Kabbalists have said that the sign of Capricorn, the goat, is ruled by the planet Saturn, and the Capricorn birthstone is garnet. Now, rosaries and amulets using garnet for Capricorn are magically potent for this praxis. Kabbalistic and alchemical planetary associations, in this instance of a waning half moon in Capricorn, whilst transiting through lunar mansion number 23, could be utilized with perfumes, essential oils, herbs, or flowers, as well as colors. So you can also use those kinds of things. We're going to focus on the gems and the metals that you can use for making rosaries or amulets or jewelry or these kind of things that are emblems and icons that the ancients used to make. So that's what we're focusing on because they're very powerful, and they've been used for, since the beginning of when man first began to organize with what man thought nature was doing, when looking at the sky and seeing an animal or or human or a hunter or maybe a bird. Different cultures have different things that they project onto the stars. Nevertheless, it comes out of our consciousness. And now that we're becoming one world, because we're all so connected, it's good to understand everybody's culture and see how, in reality, we have more in common than we have difference. We don't really have that much difference. We're humans, and we have similar brains, and we have similar ways that we perceive the world, and how we place our like patterns upon nature. So just understand, when you translate some of these words, you find out that they're actually doing the same thing, or they're praying for the same thing, or saying the same thing. That one person's holy book is actually saying the same thing another person's holy book is saying. The only difference is in the language being used. But in reality, it's the same thing. Just like the Kabbalah is the same as the I Ching. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. All right, now, regarding the planetary alchemical metal, in the case for this Capricorn moon, this would indicate lead for Saturn. Okay, so the planetary alchemical metal, again, in this instance, for what we've just mentioned, it would indicate lead because of the planet Saturn, because that's the association. Of course, there's a warning that lead is toxic, and the absorption or the ingestion of this metal can cause lead poisoning, and therefore lead is neither realistic nor is it workable for this operation by common persons. Lead should only be handled by those that possess the knowledge and the skill to do so. Agrippa also mentions that for lunar mansion number 23, the ancients traditionally made an iron emblem of the rendering of a cat's body sporting a dog's head, which was created as a magical talisman for mansion of the moon al-Sad al-Bula for the specific purpose of causing devastation and atrophy, as we mentioned. Now, it's important to note here that according to Vivian Irwood Robson, author of the book The Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, the Greek astronomer Ptolemy gives the precise planetary attributes of Saturn and Mercury to the stars which are located specifically in the left hand of Aquarius the water bear. Ptolemy also mentioned that the stars located in the left hand of Aquarius are attributed to the planets of Saturn, so see there's an agreement there, and Mercury in regards to the planetary nature of this area of the constellation of Aquarius. Most of these planetary natures include the planet Saturn, which is traditionally assigned by Kabbalists to the constellation of Capricorn and Aquarius. Since Saturn's alchemical metal of lead is toxic, as we have already mentioned, and it's not practical for most jewelers to use in the making of rosary chains and amulet bases or settings for rings or something, or other metals associated with Mansion of the Moon number 23 have practical applications for magical workings. Also, since the second planetary attribute assigned to celestial bodies found in the left hand of the constellation of Aquarius have the nature of Mercury, which is also considered toxic for this operation, making the use of it impractical and unworkable. We must then look to Agrippa's recommended metal, which he has suggested we use. For the alchemical metal, he said to use iron to do this work, since iron can be used for things like for rosary chains or for amulet bases or for jewelry settings. Now, this when talking about whether or not iron is safe to use, of course, iron, when ingested or absorbed, can either be therapeutic or it can cause an overdose of iron in some individuals. Like if someone has a low blood level of iron, of course you give them iron. If the doctor would give them iron, and that would be therapeutic. If, on the other hand, someone has too much iron and you give them iron, then, or they don't need any and you give them iron, then you could give them, too much iron. So this is just talking about ingesting it or injecting it. All right. Now, and just know that it's also interesting to note here that people use cast iron pans to cook in, and so only someone that has someone knows that they can't use iron would be concerned about using a cast iron pan. So you see that it's really not something to worry about if you're just making a jewelry out of it, or a rosary chain, or an amulet base. Now, it's also interesting to note here that the toxic metals of lead and quicksilver is also called mercury, and it's associated with the planet Mercury, associated with the star Bali, could certainly lead to ruin and deterioration of the body if they were ingested or absorbed by an individual, and could ultimately lead to the death of a person or an animal. We're talking about if they used lead, or mercury, quicksilver, mercury, or lead, the ones that we said were toxic. Now, iron, we said, can be used safely because we're not ingesting it or, injecting it. But on the other hand, just working with lead and having it, get into your skin, absorption through the skin, or your mercury, now that's different. They are associated with ruin and deterioration of the body if they are ingested or absorbed, by an individual. And again, it could ultimately lead to death of an animal or a person. So now, perhaps mentioning that the magical talisman for Mansion of the Moon number 23 was to be made of iron is a cover, or what is called a magical blind, used by the ancient sorceresses and sorcerers to stop those considered profane and uninitiated from using metals that would sicken or even cause death in both the person making the talisman as well as the person or persons targeted by the magician. Now, it is only when we delve deeper into the ancient planetary attributes that we discover magical symmetry and a union with modern science. It's actually, you can call it magic, you can call it science, it's the same exact thing. And it's just how much the more responsibility you show, the more responsible you are, the more dangerous of a tool you're allowed to use. You don't want people who aren't responsible using tools that they either don't know how to use, don't have the skill to use, and aren't licensed to use, and don't have overseers, because that could cause great devastation. And some people might want to cause devastation, but they're not considered responsible. So if responsibility and power go hand in hand. Now, in summary, for the purpose of making rosary chains, jewelry settings or amulet bases or bezels, one can consider using iron for lunar mansion number 23, as Agrippa advocates if they so desire, although iron is alchemically associated with Mars. So you're not getting the Saturnine or the Mercurial association, or, you know, and iron is similar in color. Iron is similar in color to lead or mercury, so it wouldn't be that bad of a choice. And it is what Agrippa recommends. So I think that makes sense. But understand it's associated with Mars. That's going to give it a more martial, therefore more competitive and more warlike and more aggressive attribute. So rather than languishing and wasting, it will give the attribute of making someone fight. So understand that. All right, now, keep in mind that the number assigned to each mansion of the moon may vary, like we're calling this mansion of the moon number 23. Well, that may vary, relying upon the cultural and the astrological attributes of the system being used. What pinpoints the exact lunar mansion to which we are referring is made clear by the use of the star to be wished upon, as well as by the name of the indicated mansion of the moon. Other Kabbalistic correspondences for lunar mansion number 23 are as follows. Moon in Capricorn. Luna gives the goat a very attractive quality, very charming and alluring, as well as expediency and shrewdness. These attributes bestow imperiousness to Capricorn moon, ensuring that the goat minds to her or his serious and essential life requirements before taking on romantic or social concerns. Now, planetary archangel for Luna or the moon is Gabriel. God is my strength, power of God, and messenger of God. Zodiac angel for Capricorn is Hanael, whose divine tone is I use. Tarot card for Luna or the moon is the High Priestess. And the High Priestess card sitting between the pillars of Joachim and Boaz in the temple, with the triple moon crown upon her head of the triple goddess, with the pomegranates behind her, with the cross on her chest, and also the Torah scroll in her hand, with the rivers of life and the rivers from the consciousness of the Creator flowing over her and into the receptive crescent moon that's facing up. And that's the card associated with the moon. Now, in tarot, with the moon. Now, the musical note in the ancient Western array for the moon or Luna is F. So we're going to play that for you now with our tuning fork. Okay, that is F. That's for the moon, to bring in the lunar quality, to bring in the High Priestess card. Yes? Okay, now, tarot card for Capricorn is the Devil card. So we have the Devil card here, and the Devil is showing that it's a winged, horned beast, giving you the sort of the as above, so below, like George Washington statue. And it's very similar to the Lover's card. But instead of an angel, you have the winged devil, and you have, instead of the tree, you have a stone or a black rectangle that they're chained to. They're chained to a black rectangle. They're chained to it. It's a black rectangle, okay? They're chained to it. And we have sort of the devil's version of Adam and Eve. They're horned beings with fire and grapes. So it's wine and passion. Now the devil card may be difficult if you're asking about somebody, you know, as far as your ethics are concerned, because they'll just do what they need to do for their either their addiction or for their whatever is their personal good, for what's convenient for them. And we all have that in us, by the way. But it's also, when you're talking about physicality, the devil gives you physical strength. It does. So understand that. Some beast in us gives us physical strength. So it's not always bad when you're talking about your health. The devil can be a good indicator if you're using it in tarot, like in a reading. Okay? Now, the musical note in the ancient Western array for Capricorn is G. We're going to play that for you now. All right. Now the information found in this document that we have attached, where you can look at some of the information that we have. You can read about it in my blog. We have it attached in the description box, and we also have the page numbers for the books we're going to recommend for you in a moment here. And you can look up how these are spelled, some of these words that are, you know, like Alsada, Abula, and that kind of thing, and the names of the stars and all these things. So you can see how they're spelled, and also the page numbers of the books we're going to recommend for you here in a moment. So the information that's in the document attached and in this video is based on the oral tradition known as Kabbalah, taught to me by Rosicrucian clergy when I was but a young girl, the facts of which I have committed to memory. Now, much of the information about star magic was also taught to me through an adjacent German pagan coven, which had established satellite covens throughout the world, which I was in one of those covens, the satellite covens. And I began writing a book based upon these extremely important teachings in 1988, which I have entitled to be my Star Magic Grimoire. And I'm continuing to develop it and share it with you now. And I do really enjoy sharing this information with you, because these are things that are most interesting to me. Now, the reference books for lunar mansions, which we recommend, would be Mansions of the Moon, a Lunar Zodiac for Astrology and Magic, 2nd edition, with 2019, 2033, 2019 to 2033, Mansion Ephemeris. It's very important, that Ephemeris, written by Christopher Warnock in 2019, illustrated by Nigel Jackson, and published by Renaissance Astrology. And again, 2019. And the page numbers, you can look in the description box for the blog and check it out there. The second book we'd like to recommend are 3 books of occult philosophy, Llewellyn's Sourcebook series, authored by Henry Cornelius Agrippa of Nettisham in 1533, translated by James Freak in 1650, edited and annotated by Donald Tyson, 1993, published in 2000 by Llewellyn Publications. And third, a very, very important book to understand the stars and their planetary associations. There's so much important information in this book called The Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, authored by Vivian E. Robson, Bachelor of Science, published by American Federation of Astrologers, Inc., cover design by Jack Coppola. And you'll see that when you look at these different books, the number of the mansion may vary a bit. Usually when things vary, they vary by 2 digits. Usually, like the metric system and the English system is a 12 and 10. There's 2 digits different. In the month October, that means octo means 8, but it's the 10th month. There's a 2-digit difference. That's done on purpose to keep you seeking. That's all it's for. One's not right and the other one wrong. It's to keep you seeking. Because without movement, there is no life. And seeking creates life. All right? So understand that you're going to look at the name of the star and the name of the mansion and the constellation, and that will tell you, that will orient you to where you are. All right. So thank you for joining us. Please join us again, and we'll see you soon.